Hello, everyone. So, what you're looking at right now is a picture of my roommate at Alex Jones's studio in Texas. I had the opportunity of taking a tour of Alex Jones's studio when I was on the Immortality bus. We stopped by there. Sultan gave a little interview. It was cool. Got to meet a lot of the Alex Jones crew. Very nice people. But anyways, one of the things I found interesting walking through the hallways was this sign. We found this sign on the wall that said liberty or death. If I'm not mistaken, I think one of the founding fathers may have said it. But regardless where this saying came from, I just want to say that I think it's a really stupid saying. Give me liberty or give me death. That's the full saying that you usually hear quoted by people. The idea behind this quote, as I understand it, is that they are basically lifting up the idea of liberty. They're saying liberty is more important, it's more of a priority than life itself, which is completely idiotic. I would much rather live as a slave than to be dead. Let me paint a hypothetical scenario where there's a dystopian future and a tyrannical government, and you either have to live as a slave or die. I would much rather live as a slave, because then you at least get to live. Being alive in a condition where you have almost no freedom is still better than being dead. Because if you're alive, you at least have the freedom to think thoughts in your brain. You have the freedom inside your mind. With your imagination, you can imagine all the freedom you want inside your head. You can create entire worlds inside your head, but you can't if you're dead. So I think that it's important to understand how important it is to live, regardless of the circumstances of your life, regardless of how much freedom you have. It's always better to be alive, even as a slave. Now obviously, I'm a fan of liberty. I'm a fan of freedom. But I would definitely sacrifice liberty and freedom to stay alive. That's the point. I just wanted to make it clear where I stand on this issue. My roommate basically has the same idea here, so I'm speaking for both of us here. Maybe he'll make a video about this topic later, but, living forever should be at the top of your set of priorities. Not liberty, not freedom. Liberty and freedom are somewhere on that hierarchy of priorities, but they're not at the top. The top is life, just to stay alive at whatever cost. Because if you're dead, you can't have any liberty or freedom anyways. You won't even exist. Life comes first. Always. Survival comes first. If there was ever a time where I have to decide between giving up my liberty or giving up my life, I will definitely give up my liberty. That's where I stand on this issue. And I would also try my hardest not to become a slave, because if you are a slave, that would most certainly decrease your chances of living forever. Think about it. Like, if you were a slave, they probably wouldn't be feeding you the best, healthiest food. If you were a slave, you might not have medical freedom. Maybe they would force vaccinate you. These kind of things. You probably wouldn't have access to cutting-edge life extension therapies, so you'd probably die from old age. Being a slave is generally bad for your eternal life. The more freedom you have, the more likely you can create an environment where you can live forever. An ultra-safe environment. But if you're a slave, you're stuck with whatever your prison is, and it might not be the ideal scenario to live forever. So I would definitely be fighting for freedom, and I wouldn't willingly become a slave. But I would definitely become a slave rather than die, if those were my only two choices. Another reason you'd always want to choose being alive, even as a slave, is because if you're alive, there's always a potential you can escape your slavery later on. You'd always want to stay alive as long as possible because you never know how the future would change. maybe the tyrannical government would eventually just let you go. There's also always the possibility that even as a prisoner, you wouldn't be abused, you'd be treated all right by whatever slave master is in control of you. Just because you're a prisoner doesn't mean you're going to be abused and killed. Maybe they would even keep you alive with life extension. Maybe they would provide you access to those things. As long as you're doing your work and you're being a good law-abiding citizen in their prison or whatever it is. There's always opportunity when you're alive, but if you're dead, there's no opportunity at all. So where do you guys stand on this issue? If the only way to live was to live as a slave, would you rather live as a slave than be dead? Would you be willing to sacrifice your liberty if that was the only way to stay alive? I know I would. No doubt in my mind. I want to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comments. Thank you for listening.